What is up, Sports Geeks? It's your host, Josh, here back with another College Hoops episode. Welcome to the Final Four episode, Nick. This is the final College Hoops, final March Madness episode of the year. A little bit sad in that sense, but we have 4-1 seeds. So if you picked the correct Final Four, you suck at filling out brackets. I don't want to be in a bracket challenge with you because that means you picked 4-1 seeds. No fun. But it will be fun because we get to see, I think, truly the four best teams in the nation play. So it's kind of one of those where if you're building brackets, it sucks because you picked upsets.
Yep.
And you didn't get them. But for just watching basketball and getting to experience the best basketball teams compete for a national championship, it's exactly what we're getting here. So we have Duke, Houston, and then we also have Florida, Auburn. So we have an SEC showdown, and then we have the clear front runners from the ACC, from the Big 12. Here in it. No Big Ten presence. My Michigan State Spartans could not quite get it done, but that's okay. Let's start with the Florida Auburn game. I think there's a lot of moving pieces in this game, in my opinion. I'm curious to hear kind of your breakdown as to how you think this game might go. Maybe a key matchup or two.
Yeah, I mean, like you brought up, obviously this is sad. We've made it to the end of March Madness. It went by quick. I feel like it went by a lot quicker than it usually does. But no, we are getting the best four teams statistically in college basketball. You look at KenPom; these are the top four teams in all of college basketball by like 6+ points.
Yeah.
Like these are your top four. And yes, it so happens to be all the one seeds, but I think these are the best matchups. These are the matchups that everybody wants. When you get to the Final Four, you don't want to see that Cinderella make it and lose by 15.
Right.
But no, yeah, I mean, this is a game between Florida and Auburn where they've already played so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
They already had a game this year, and Florida went actually into Auburn's crib and beat them by 9 and handled them really easily the whole game. It wasn't really much of a game. You kind of knew that Florida was going to come out with it. They were up by, I think, as much as 16 or something in the second half. So it was always an uphill battle for Auburn to even get inside of 10 points. And, I mean, you look what they did. They held Auburn to only having 2 starters in double figures. And that was Miles Kelly with 22, and that was Janai Broome with 18. Other than that, their next highest starter was Chad Bigman-Zard, only had 6 points. They were able to go to Auburn, and when they were the number one team, and punch them in the face. And they were relentless. They didn't stop. I mean, look what they did. They shot 40% from 3. Florida did 84% from the free throw line, 49% from the field. They were extremely efficient on the shots they were taking, and they had 4 starters in double digits. And then a guy coming off the bench was 16.
Yep.
So they did everything they needed to do. And I think you look at this matchup, they're a lot more athletic than this Auburn Tigers team is too as well. I honestly thought Auburn could have lost to your Spartans if, Michigan State didn't get off to such a slow start. I mean, they let them rip a 17-0 run in the first 6-7 minutes of the game, and then it was always an uphill battle after that. But it's not like Michigan State didn't deserve to be out on the floor with them. You could tell they weren't that much, they weren't that much they weren't as bad as they made them look. And I think Florida's kind of going to show that. As long as Florida doesn't get off to a slow start, kind of like they have this tournament, I think I don't see why Florida can't go and game plan the same way they did against Auburn the first time and beat them again. Probably not by as much, but I think they could pull out a close win here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Florida here as well. I think for me, there's a lot of things to touch on here. One, when Florida beat Auburn, that was Auburn playing the best basketball we maybe saw from anybody all year at that time, right? That was when Auburn ran through all January of the SEC, right? In mid-February is when they beat them. So you got to think of the timing where they beat them. You beat them on the road at Auburn. Florida lost the turnover battle and lost the rebounding battle against Auburn and won that game.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to lose the rebounding battle. This game. I think the way that Florida rebounds the ball, especially as of late, I think when you have guys like Chinelu and Condon, and then you get somebody like Thomas Hawk coming off the bench, you have really, really good rebounders, not even mentioning like Elijah Martin and Will Richard, who are guards, big guards,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like these guys are wide guys that attack the glass. I think that this Florida team, I think, is much better than Auburn right now. I really, really like them. I also think for me, Janai Broome hasn't practiced all week. We're recording this on what? This is Thursday today?
Thursday. I think he might have practiced today just a little bit. He wasn't a full participant.
He was hoping to practice today.
Yeah.
So 48 hours before the game, you're hoping to practice. I also think that the impact that has on you, maybe as a guard, if it's your off elbow as a guard, maybe not so much. Yeah, I think for Johni Broome, the right elbow is what goes into defenders so you can shoot a left hand hook, right?
Yep.
It is going to get banged up. And I think that Johni Broome, Chad Baker Mazara's got his left wrist taped. Excuse me, there. Got his left wrist taped in the second half of the Michigan State game. I think they're just banged up right now. And I think that this Florida team, they had their scare. They should have lost to Texas Tech.
Yes.
There's no reason they should have won that game.
100%.
But they did. And they hit 5 of their last 6 threes. I believe 5 of their last 6. So if you're the next team that has to play them, they're coming off of 5 of their last 6 threes. And a one where they faced, I mean, their season ending. Walter Clayton Jr.'s career ending. Right? Maybe not career ending, college career ending.
Yeah.
And they battled back to win that game. I think Florida wins this game. I think the 3-point shooting, the overall depth is just too much. And I think that Auburn's just too banged up. I think that what they do to them on the glass, what Florida does to them on the glass is going to be really important. I think the key matchup for me personally is Walter Clayton Jr. against Denver Jones. Denver Jones is one of the best defenders in the nation, but Walter Clayton Jr. is one of the best players in the nation. And I think that if Walter Clayton Jr. is going to get his way, then they're going to have some real issues. For Auburn, you're going to have guys like Miles Kelly, guys like Denver Jones. They have to shoot the ball well. Chad Baker, you have to have Denver Jones, Miles Kelly, Chad Baker Mazara, obviously Todd Pettiford coming off the bench. All of those guys have to shoot the ball at a very, very good clip. You don't have to shoot it at 55%, but you have to be able to shoot it at 40 because this Florida team is going to be is a very high-powered offense, and they rebound the ball really well. I like Florida to win that game, but we'll head over to the other game, the later game of the night, I believe, Duke Houston. And so this is a one where we picked Houston in our pre-tournament bracket. I think the way that Duke's playing right now is very tough, right? It's hard to say that you're going to pick anybody other than Duke. But I want to hear your thoughts on this here.
Yeah. So as we brought up last week, I obviously picked Houston to go win it all in my brackets. I'm starting to regret that now. This Duke team's insane. Every time I watch them play, it's like I'm seeing a team that could compete in the NBA. You look at their roster and their starting 5 who they put out there. It's ridiculous. Everybody's 6'5" or taller. You know, their defense is so underrated. They're number 2 in the country, I believe, in adjusted defense. They're number 1 in adjusted offense. They can go get a bucket whenever they need to. They have 4 different guys who can go get them a bucket whenever they feel. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous when you look at what they do. I mean, they almost shoot 50% as a team from the field, and they average 17 assists. They get 7 steals a game. I mean, they've won 15 in a row, right behind Houston, who's won 17. It kills me to say it, but I think Duke wins this game. I really do. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that Duke wins this game by 10. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think it will get to that point. I think Houston's way too good on the defensive end, and they bring enough on the offensive end to where they can keep this within 10. But I don't see Houston having enough to get them to the next spot because they beat the crap out of Tennessee, but that was like one of the worst shooting performances and offensive performances any team's ever had in a half by a 1 or 2 seed in NCAA history. And I know it's partially because of Houston's defense, but my Lord, they were missing so many open shots.
Yeah.
It's not like every shot they took from behind the arc or pull-up jumper was, completely smothered. No, they were missing wide open shot. Chesnero at one point was like 1 of 11. And then Zakai Ziegler, I think, was maybe like 3 of 8 or 9.
Yeah.
They weren't shooting well. They were getting the open shots. They weren't hitting them. And I mean, they weren't playing insanely bad defense. I mean, they held Houston to 69 points. I mean, I don't know. I think this Houston team is really, really good. If they're on the other side of the bracket, I would pick them. I'd pick them to go to the finals to play Duke. But in all reality, I think whoever wins this game is going to go on and win the NCAA tournament. I really do. And just the way Duke's playing right now, they almost look unstoppable. Mm-hmm. We talk about trying to get their best guys into foul trouble. It doesn't happen.
No.
It does not happen. This team doesn't get into foul trouble. They completely got rid of the turnovers they had at the beginning of the year that a lot of people were harping on, like, oh, my God, these end-of-the-year turnovers, end-of-the-game turnovers, they're horrible. They got a bunch of freshmen. I don't know what they're doing. these two aren't freshmen. They don't
No.
act like freshmen.
Nope.
Con Knipple and Cooper Flag act like they are third or fourth year guys.
Yes.
It's very impressive. I've never seen anything like it in my 22 years of being alive on this earth. I've never seen two freshmen that either one of them, if they put up a shot up, you are very confident it's going in.
Yeah.
So it hates me to pick against Houston. I think they'll fight. I think it's going to come down to the fact that they don't have enough size to go against this Duke team, and that they're probably going to lose the battle on the glass. And all it takes is one LJ Crowd performance like he had against Purdue, and I don't think you're coming back against this Duke team.
Yeah, I'm going to pick an upset here. Not going any chalk. I'm picking an upset. And I'm gonna give a couple reasons why. Real quick, I do want to say we talk about the 4-1 seeds. These are 4 of the top 10 teams in KenPom history in the last 25 years. So, like in the last 25 years, take every team ever that has played in the last 25 years in NCAA basketball. These are 4 of the top 10 teams. So they are spectacular. I think part of the reason for that is the transfer portal, which don't worry, we'll have an episode on that next week.
That's going to be insane episode.
Yes,
so much is happening.
Yes, but I think there's a couple reasons here. One, it's played in San Antonio, right? So I do think that that helps Houston. Duke's going to travel well. They always do. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But Houston does not make Final Fours very often. And at least in recent history, they don't.
Yeah.
And it's in their backyard. So I think that's going to help them. I also think that you've consistently won games this year or this tournament with crappy performances from players.
Yeah.
You very rarely get that, right? And so, I mean, Uzan against Tennessee played very rough. You have LJ Cryer against Purdue, who was awful, nothing short of awful, right? You won both of those games. So for me, if I'm Duke, I'm not going to say I'm concerned if I'm Duke, right? Because they've steamrolled everybody, including Bama, who was coming off a crazy shooting performance. But I think that if I'm Duke, I'm a little bit concerned in what happens when both guys play well, or what happens when Houston comes out and they're 42% 3-point shooters shoot the ball like 42% 3-point shooters. Because the defensive side of the ball is something that we've challenged all year, right? And we've said, oh, maybe the Big 12 is a little bit more soft, and let's see how they do against Braden Smith and Purdue. You held them to 60, right? Oh, let's see how you do against an SEC team in Tennessee. Although the offensive firepower isn't high, let's see how you do against a team that was in the top tier of the SEC. Oh yeah, you held them to what, 18 points in the first half? 15?
15. Yeah. The lowest ever by a 1 or a 2 seed in the tournament.
Yeah. So, and I know that they missed shots in there, but you watch the first 10 minutes of that game. I think the final 5 minutes of the first half, they missed open shots. The first 15 minutes, they didn't get open shots. And I think that's part of what Houston does to you is they make open shots difficult because you're so unaccustomed to those. I also think my final point about this game, Tyrese Proctor, we said this all year. These freshmen are studs. Tyrese Proctor has to be a leader for this team in the tournament. He has to be able to be leaned on, and he's been spectacular so far. I mean, all tournament team. If it ends right now, he's all tournament team easily. But I don't know what they do if he has a really crappy day. And I've seen Houston; they win games when their guys have crappy days, right?
Yeah.
And they've beaten good teams, right? They haven't played anybody that's Duke's level, but they've beaten good teams when their guys have crappy days. I think in this game, I see a pathway where Sharp, Cryer, and Uzan all shoot the ball at a very high level. And I think having 3 guys that can shoot the ball from 3 like how they can and how hard and how well they defend the 3, I think that could just give some fits. I also think that Juwan Roberts on the inside is wide enough that Kaman Wallawatch might have some issues with him. I think Joseph Tugler is somebody that you could throw onto Cooper Flag, and he actually matches up really well.
That's going to be a great matchup because he just got named Defensive Player of the Year in
he
college
did get
basketball.
Named it?
Yes.
I thought he was a finalist. I didn't know.
I was going to bring that up. That was going to be the next talking point is the fact like if he can somehow, use his length at being 6'8", but like he's got a wingspan of over 7 foot.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love the most about this Houston team. Don't get me wrong, I did pick Duke, and I think Duke will ultimately win this game, but I will be rooting for Houston.
Yeah.
I will be rooting for Houston. but just they're like they have a length in a different way that most teams don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at Javier Francis is maybe 6'9". He's got like a 7'4", like 7'5" wingspan.
Yep.
Juwan Roberts, he's 6'8". He's got over 7-foot wingspan. Joseph
Mm-hmm.
Tugler, 6'8", over 7-foot wingspan. They get these guys that are so lengthy, not vertically, horizontally. It is crazy what they can do.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think it really comes down to that is like if Joseph Tugler is able to have a defensive performance of a lifetime
Mm-hmm.
against Cooper Flagg, and maybe you got Milos Uzan who is able to step it up on the defensive end and really frustrate Tyrese Proctor.
Mm-hmm.
Can they get some of these guys to start taking bad shots because they're hunting, or maybe get them to have commit a stupid foul, and they can get out and run and start going? I don't know. I think they can do it, but I just don't know if I don't think I can pick against this Duke team right now.
Yeah, I know, and I understand. I think my thing that I'm going to bring up, my final point that I'm going to bring up is when you make this Duke team defend 5 positions, which is what they're going to have to do.
Yep.
I've seen when you have one good guard that is your primary creator, Mark Sears, if you will.
Yeah,
he's going to struggle.
Yeah,
they can emphasize enough of their defense, like Sion James alone on him.
Their length
is going to hurt you. Somebody is probably going to shoot the ball poorly from Houston's 3, right?
Yeah.
I would assume Cryer, Uzan. Somebody's going to have a not so great sub 50% from the floor day.
Yes.
But the problem is that for me, when you make Duke, you say, okay, you're going to play Con Kneppel and Tyrese Proctor and Sion James. Put Sion James on whoever you'd like, right? I would assume you'll see Sion James on probably Cryer. I would assume you'd see Con Kneppel on Sharp, and I would assume that you'd see Proctor on Uzan. That means Proctor is going to have to defend at an extremely high level. And when you force Proctor to do that, I'm not saying he can't. I want to make sure that my words don't get twisted here. I'm not saying he can't.
No, he definitely
I'm just saying that when you allow when you force other guards to have to defend when they really have not had to defend shot makers, shot creators like what Houston has, I think that's where it can get interesting. Do I think Houston wins the game? I'm picking them here. I think it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
Duke is the favorite for a reason. I will say that they are the favorite for a reason. On paper, they should win this game. I think I see a lot of different, outcomes in which Duke wins this game. But I also think I certainly see the outcome in which Houston wins the game, and I hope they do. Let's touch on Houston or Duke against Florida in the final. Really quickly, give us a pick, and then maybe one key matchup that you think you're going to have to watch there.
Yeah. So I think whoever wins this, the winner of this Duke and Houston game is going to go on and win it all. I think both of these teams are kind of matchup nightmares for a team like Florida. If Florida were to go, once again, this is a great Florida team. Don't get me wrong. They should have lost to Tech. If Walter Clayton doesn't want to shoot a little layup and dribble back out and drill a 3, and Texas Tech decides they want to miss a front end of 2 1-and-1s.
Yep.
The game's over. And I think if you look at it, either of these teams with Duke or Houston play a whole nother level of defense that Tech already did against this Florida team. And I really do think that, you look at either of these teams, they should be able to bully this Florida team. You just look at what Dan Hurley did with his club. Dan Hurley is a fantastic coach. John Shire is a fantastic coach. Kelvin Sampson, a fantastic coach. They can even remotely put together a game plan that even is similar to what Texas Tech or UConn did. This Florida team will wither, and I think you'll see either Duke or Houston cutting down the nets.
Yep, I would agree. I think that like a Sion James or Cryer / Uzan versus Walter Clayton Jr. I think is going to be a very, very key matchup. But overall, I agree with you. I think we'll see somebody cut down the nets. That comes from this Duke Houston side. I will say this. I think as much as we make this sound like whoever's going to come from this side is going to come over and quote unquote dog walk Florida, it will be under 10 points. This is a national championship game between 2 spectacular teams. This is not like a UConn playing a San Diego State here. This is 2 of the top 4 teams, probably in my opinion, top 3 teams right now playing in the national championship. This maybe touches 15 at one point in the game, maybe.
Yeah, I could see.
I would be willing to bet ends single digits. pretty
I
comfortable.
think it'll be better than I think it'll be a lot better than the UConn Purdue game was last year.
Yeah.
And those were two really good teams.
Mhm.
But I think I agree with you. I think they could get to a point where it could hit double digits, but it'll end in the single digits. You know, whatever team is losing by double digits, they'll make the run. They always do. This is March. Yep. Every team makes a run in March, in every game. So yeah, but no, I really do think these are the 4 best teams. I'm not mad about it. I'm mad at myself for not picking chalky and taking all 4 because probably gonna end up costing myself some bracket challenges. But shout out to everybody who went all 4 1 seeds because it was right. These are the 4 best teams, and they're the 4 best teams, like I said, by 6+ points on KenPom. And this is for as much as people want to say, oh, what happened to Cinderella? This is what the people want.
Yep.
You don't, like I said, you don't want to see a team, outside the top 25, 30 in KenPom make it to Elite 8, Final Four, because they're gonna get whooped. They don't have the dogs to fight these top teams, and we've seen it all year.
And if you're a March basketball fan, you probably want to see that happen, right? You want to see your Cinderella story make it to the Elite 8, make it to the Final Four. Yeah. But if you, like us, and probably most people that are still watching this podcast more than 20 minutes into this episode, if you've been watching basketball all year and you've been watching this Duke team play all year, you've been watching this Houston team, you've been watching these SEC teams play all year, you are itching to see Duke play Florida. You are itching to see this Calvin Sampson team take on Auburn, right? You're itching to see these matchups. So I know I completely agree with you. We didn't pick it chalky. We picked it fairly chalky, actually. We went 3 of 4 and had Michigan State. So we were close.
Yeah.
And probably if I'm not a Michigan State fan, we might have even picked Auburn. But who knows? But either way, this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. We have transfer portal coming next week. Make sure you tune into that video.
A lot is already going down with that.
Yes, and there's going to be a little bit of probably a rant or two in there.
Yeah.
But also just a lot of just filling in on who's gone where. So other than that, this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.